Hi, good afternoon, everyone. How's the week been so far? How is the weekend going? Let's please we can unmute our mic and respond. Hello, hello. Good afternoon, everyone. Please, if you can hear me, or let's unmute our mic so that I can know I'm not the only one on the call. Good afternoon. How are you, and how is the weekend going?
Thank you.
All right, all right. So let's wait for a while before we commence today's training. So, all right. So let's commence today's training. I'll be sharing my screen now, and please let us respond so that I will know that we can see my screen. Can we see my screen now? Hello. All right. Thank you very much. So let's proceed. Okay. So basically, this is week 4 of the first month of our training, and we've been looking at the principles of design so far. So this week, which is week 4, we'll be looking at principles of design part 4. Principles of design part 4. So last week we looked at balance. We looked at the first part where we explored balance, contrast, and emphasis. So we look at balance, which is stability, and contrast, which is difference, and emphasis, which means focus. So today we'll be looking at the second part of the principles of design, and there are 3 principles here we'll be looking at today. The first one is alignment, repetition, and proximity, and the visual example is on the right. We can see that these 3 rings are aligned as they are laying on top of each other, and the repetition aspect means that we have 3 circle rings which are being repeated. This is the first one, the second one, and the third one. This is an example of repetition in design. And in terms of proximity, these 3 rings are being placed side by side with each other. They are even running to each other, and that is an example of proximity. So in today's reality, most designs fail because of a lot of reasons, but I only put 3 reasons here. The first reason here is poor alignment. When there is poor alignment in a design, the design will fail. It will not communicate the intended message to the audience. And second, when there is no spacing logic, and third, when there is random placement whereby you just place elements randomly on a design, the overall design won't look presentable. Now, let's look at the big idea. I wrote here, structure creates clarity. When a design is well structured, it is easy for me and you to understand what the designer is trying to pass across, or what the person posting the design is trying to pass across to us as the message of that design. And I put visual examples here whereby we have a structured layout versus a messy layout. Excuse me. I want to be sure I'm recording. All right. Right. We have a structured layout versus a messy layout. Now, I want us to unmute our mic and respond. Which of these designs do we prefer? And I want us to give me a concrete reason why we prefer either the one on the left or the one on the right. Hello, good afternoon. Yes, I can hear you. I can hear. All right, thank you very much for this brilliant contribution. I would like to have more responses. Please let's mute our mic and contribute. Good afternoon. How are you? All right, thank you for the feedback. Thank you very much. Thank everyone that has contributed so far. It shows that we are all on the same page. Like our first response, he said like the design on the left is well positioned and observes the principles that we have been looking at so far. So that explains that. Now we will start with what is alignment. What is alignment? And like I said here, alignment is how elements line up. Alignment is how elements line up. And there's a visual example by the right. We can see that these items are aligned. They are being placed on a kind of a straight point. By the picture was taken from a right angle, an angular position, it shows that these elements are being placed on a straight line. So this is a visual example of alignment. Now, why does alignment matter in design? Why does alignment matter in design? Like I said here, it gives order to the design and ensures that nothing is placed randomly. The reason why we have alignment is to ensure that we don't just place our elements randomly on a design. Like I don't just put the logo of a design, I don't put it below, whereas I'm supposed to put it at the top. I don't put the text, the address that is supposed to be below, I don't put it as the first element in the design. So the reason why we have alignment, again, is to ensure that nothing is being placed randomly. And there's a visual example by the right. We can see these arrows pointing to the right. It guides our eye. It guides our eye towards what this person in this image wants us to see. Now we have a bad example of alignment here, placed here in this page. Now the visual shows random text elements and uneven margins. We can see that this design is an example of a bad alignment because the text here are even barely readable and everything is just being placed randomly, like randomly. We don't know the focal point of this design. We don't know whether we have to focus on this image or this image or this image. And now we have an example of a good alignment here where we have a clean and grid-based layout. Excuse me. We have the text here, which is clear and bold enough. The name of the person in the image is placed here too, and the date of the event is placed here too. So this is an example of where good alignment is being applied in a design. Now we have different types of alignment, but for the sake of this training, we'll keep it at 3. The first one is left alignment. I'm circling above it so we can understand. The first one is left alignment. The second one is center alignment, and the third one is right alignment. So let me break this down in simple English. Left alignment is basically when the design elements, in a design are predominantly found on the left side. When the elements in a design are predominantly found on the left side of the design. And center alignment is when the elements in a design are predominantly centered in a design. Like most of the elements in the design are being placed in the center position of that design. And for the right alignment, it means when most of the design elements are being placed at the right side of a design. Do we understand this types of alignment that I just explained, or should I explain further? Please let's unmute our mic and so I can know that we understand, or whether I need to explain more. Thank you for that feedback. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So, like I said, left alignment. This is when the design elements are mostly located on the left hand segment of the design. And this is usually used and it's readable. Like the example here by the right side of this design. You can see step into style. There's an image of a lady here by the left. And while there are other text on the right side of the design, I believe most of us will agree that the most crucial elements of the design are being placed on the left side. So this is an example of left alignment being used in a design. Now for the center alignment, this is when the design elements are mostly located on the central part of the design, either horizontally or vertically. And there's a visual example here by the right. You can see the Netflix logo by the top, and History of Chaos and Revenge, Magicide, and the image of the main character of the movie in the central position of the design. And we also have an example of right alignment. This is when the design elements are mostly located on the right hand segment of the design, either horizontally or vertically. So as we can see here, though it's not really that clear, but we can see here that the International Human Rights Day and the other text in this design are mostly placed by the right side. So this is an example of right alignment being used in design. So there are some common mistakes people make when using alignment in design. Now, the first one is random placement. When you place elements randomly in a piece of design, that is an example of a mistake of wrongly applied alignment in design. And secondly is when you mix alignment on a single piece of design. Let's say for a single piece of design, you are trying to use the left alignment, center alignment, right alignment on, like, say, a simple flyer. At the end of the day, you will not be able to really achieve a really concrete design. And the third one here is ignoring margins. Ignoring margins. And margins is simply the space between elements on a piece of design, like a space between elements on a piece of design. When you ignore margins on a piece of design, it's just like you are making all the text, for example, you make everything look clumsy. There's no proper spacing between elements. Now let's look at proximity. Proximity is when related items are grouped together. Proximity is when related items are grouped together. So there's a visual example here by the right, and it shows us this circuit, or we can call it an electrical stuff that is being placed together. This is an example of proximity because these items used in this image, for example, are the same and they are being placed together. But in design, we can say they are being grouped together. Now, why does proximity matter in design? Why does proximity matters in design? It creates meaning and adds a depth of visual harmony to the design. Proximity creates meaning and adds a depth of visual harmony to the design. And I just put this image by the right here to give us a visual example of what I'm trying to say. We can see that these elements in this piece of design, it looks like a curve. If you follow the arrows on the screen, it looks like a curve, but they are being placed side by side and they have different color. But looking at the full picture, we can see that though the colors are different, but there's still a visual harmony in this image. Like everything blends together. Now, let's look at an example of bad proximity being used in a design. You can see here that though there's something here, concerto, punk, rock, and the rest of the text is blurry. Like I said by the left section, I put the description of this flyer there. Scattered information. The text are being placed randomly and you can even barely understand what this flyer or this poster is trying to communicate. So this is an example of the bad proximity being used in design. Excuse me. Just give me a minute to restore my video. Can we all see my screen? Hello? Can we see my screen? Thank you very much. So let's proceed. Like I was saying, the example of the flyer, this poster by the right, is an example of bad proximity being used in a piece of design because the information here is scattered and we can barely make a sense of what this poster is all about. So now, this is an example of good proximity being used in a piece of design. I put it here, grouped text blocks. You can see here that this Vino Sino noodles, everything is being placed together because it's being grouped together because it's in the same category. Like it's the name of the brand, and they are telling us that they sell noodles. And below it, we have order now, and the website of the company is being placed close to the order now. So the order now group on this flyer and the website of this brand is in close proximity, like I've explained earlier. And the image by the in the center is playing a crucial position, is playing a crucial role in telling us what this flyer is all about. So I'm going to ask us the question now. Is this a left alignment or a center alignment or a right alignment? Why is it a center alignment? Why is it a center alignment? Okay. Okay. Thank you for that feedback. Thank you very much. That answers my question. So there are common mistakes people make when using proximity. And number one is when everything is being spaced equally. Is a bad example of proximity. And when there is no grouping, when your elements are not being grouped, like you can see here, the other now Vinosino, they are being placed in close proximity, and it makes them look like they're in a group. And the third one is overcrowding. When you put this too much element on your design, that everything is already looking closed up, there is no white space in the design, it will be difficult for people to easily read or easily understand what that poster or what that flyer is all about. So now we'll look at repetition. Repetition. Repetition is basically repeating visual elements. Repetition is when you repeat visual elements on a piece of design. Repetition is when you repeat visual elements on a piece of design. Like we can see here by the right, these are first circles. This is the first circle, but it is being repeated 3 times. For 1, 2, 3. This is an example of repetition. Now, why does repetition matters in design? Why does repetition matters in design? Repetition creates consistency in design. Like when we notice popular brands like Nike, there is something that comes to our mind, their swoosh logo. Immediately you hear Nike around the shoe brand, some people call them the shoe brand, but what comes to our mind first in some cases is the logo. And when you see Nike's logo on, let's say, a sneaker, you expect that same logo to be on another piece of Nike sneaker you'll be buying. You can't imagine yourself buying a Nike sneaker that you are seeing another logo on it. You'll be like, maybe you bought the fake one, and you might even tell your friend it's like they've sold naked to you instead of Nike. So, like I said, it creates consistency, and we can see here by this image on the right, it shows like kind of paper being folded, and everything it seems it's being repeated, but it creates consistency. Like when we look at it, it creates a kind of visual consistency when we look at it. Now we have types of repetition. There are a couple of them, but for the sake of this class, we just keep it at 3. The first one is color repetition, font repetition, and shape repetition. And I put a visual example here. For this color repetition and shape repetition, you can see that the color brown here is being repeated twice. It's being repeated here for the first time and here for the second time. And in terms of shape repetition, this arc is being repeated twice. The first one here and the second time here. Now, Font repetition. Font repetition is basically when you repeat the same, like the same word, the same font or typography system in a design. Like, let's say you use Arial, for example. Arial is a popular font. When you use Arial, for example, here in the first text, and you also use Arial again in the second text, that is an example of a font repetition. And there are common mistakes we make when we use repetition. And the first one here is when you use too many styles in your design. When you use too many styles in your design, like you are using font repetition in your design, you are using color repetition in your design, you are using shape repetition in your design. At the end of the day, you will not be able to achieve much, or the design might look unnecessarily complicated for an average person to understand. And the second one is when there's no consistency among your repetition. Let's say you use a big shape for the first one, and the second one that you intend to repeat, you use a small shape. That is no longer repetition, that is something else. And the third one is overdoing repetition. When you are overdoing repetition, like you are repeating the same shape like over 32 times in a piece of design, that's an exaggeration, by the way. That's already like doing too much for the design. So for this week, which is week 4, we have just one assignment, and I want to implore us to please submit our assignment. I appreciate the people that have been submitting their assignment so far, and I implore us that we have not been doing so to please turn a new leaf and submit our assignment. So for this week, week 4, we are to find two designs, one structured and one messy. Explain the difference between the two. Now this is time for question and answer. Please let's ask our question before I ask mine. Hello? Hello? Okay. All right. Mr. Kayode Akindele, beloved Tobi Iloye, Kofi Owusu. Do we understand? All right. Since everyone has. Okay. Okay. The recording will be made available. The recording will be made available. All right. All right. So I'm going to start my question with Mr. Kofi Owusu. Did I get your name correctly? Please correct me if I did not. Sir? All right. Let me just call you Mr. Kofi. Kofi. Mr. Kofi, please can you explain to us what you understand by repetition? All right. Thank you for that feedback. Thank you very much. It shows that we are on the same page. Now, Wiz, my next question is for you. Hello? Wiz, are you still with us? Okay. Okay. I will be switching to practical questions now, not theoretical. Imagine, don't be scared. Don't be scared. Imagine I'm a business owner and I used left alignment for my design and the design is poor. But I'm now coming to meet you as a designer that you should assist me with arranging the elements. Which of these alignments that we have discussed so far will you use and why? No, let me just show you the alignment page so that you can. This is the align. Okay. Imagine it. Wait. Imagine you are. Imagine you have to correct this design on this page. All right. All right. Thank you very. All right. Thank you very much for that feedback. It shows that we are on the same page and you understand the principles we have been discussing so far. So on to the next person. Thank you very much. You're welcome. So, Mr. Akayode Akindele, are you still with us? Good afternoon. How are you? Your question is actually simple. Why do we have proximity in design? Why do we have proximity in design? Why do we use proximity? Okay. All right. Thank you very much for that answer. That answers my question enough. Thank you for that feedback. So, who's next? Mr. Yagami, are you still with us? Good afternoon. How are you? How has the week been so far? All right. So, why do you think we should use alignment in design? I'm basically showing you the answer. Let me change the slide. Why do you think we should use alignment in design? All right. Thank you. So, in your words, alignment help us to achieve visual balance, which is very correct. Thank you for that feedback. Thank you for that answer. So, who is next? Beloved, are you with us? Beloved. Okay, seems okay. Abisola Olua. Good afternoon. Were you able to join us like from the start today? All right. So, as a designer, do you think it is necessary to use repetition or it should be based on a project basis? Do you think it is necessary to use repetition in your design? Repetition, okay. Repetition. Uh, is it just me, but I think we are struggling to hear you actually. Yes, we can hear you now. We can hear you. We can hear you. Yes, we can hear you. I think I speak for the rest of the team when I say we can hear you. Yes, we can hear you. Can oh, I don't think you got my question correctly. I was asking if designers should use repetition in their design. Like, should they really repeat, for example, repeat fonts using the same font, repeat shape using the same shapes, or repeat color using the same color in a single piece of design? Okay, all right. That should. All right. Thank you for that feedback. So, who is left? Mr. Atobi Oyiloye, are you still with us? Good afternoon. How have you been? Okay. I'm going to be moving to some of the things we've done in this month because this is week 4 so far. So, why do we use contrast in design? Why do we use contrast in design? Yes. Yes, you are online. We can hear you. Thank you very much for that feedback. Like you said, we use contrast to create distinction between elements on a piece of design or in a design. And you are very correct. Thank you very much. Who is left? I think I haven't called Beloved. Beloved, are you still with us? Beloved. All right. Hello. Yes, we can hear you. It's all right. It's all right. It's all right. So, uh, your question is actually simple. Why do you think a designer will decide to use a shape repetition on a piece of design? Like you as a designer now, why will you use a shape repetition on a piece of design? Yes. Hello, we can hear you. Yes, it's actually to emphasize. I was waiting if to see if you have more points to tell us. All right. Like you said, we use repetitions. We use repetition to also make use to emphasize on a single piece of design. And the answer to the question is actually, as a designer, you can decide to use a shape repetition in on a single piece of design. In a case whereby, let's say, you are to advertise products for a brand, so you can just put the images of the products on a circle and duplicate the circle and replace it with different images of that particular product. All right. So I think basically everyone has spoken. Do we have any question before we round up for this month? At this is week of month one. Do we have any question? Maybe anything we've discussed in the past that you want us to go over again? Hello. Do we have any question before we call it a day for this week's training? Do we have any question? Mr. Kofi, Wiz, Kayode, Toby, Abisola, Beloved. Do we have any question before we round up this week's training? All right. That brings all right. All right. That brings us to the end of this week's training. I'll drop the assignments on the Telegram group and I will see everyone in the next training. Thank you.